So Robinhood had their quarterly report yesterday. It wasn't a spectacular quarterly report the way we've come to expect from Robinhood. They missed on some expectations. Growth rate has slowed, but that's in the face of crypto revenue getting cut in half compared to a year ago. So they have had some headwinds, right? They've had some um, high level macro headwinds that hasn't played in their favor for the quarter. So the crypto was one, and then the other, of course, in the first quarter, the equities got slammed pretty hard. In near the end of March, equities were still down quite a bit for the year, whereas in April they started to make new highs. So that has partly played into it. Robinhood continues to execute really well. Their product strategy continues to be on fast track. Their banking product hasn't yet even rolled out completely, and it's already growing very, very rapidly. In terms of all the promises of what I like Robinhood for its future are still pretty sound. Um, but in the meantime, I did add some shares at $91 per share. I added some more when it dropped to 80 and then some more when it dropped to 70 earlier in the year. And I decided specifically to sell some of the $91 a share uh, shares so that I could take a loss against some of the gains that I've had in other places this year. So it's largely a tax related move. It's about 3.5% of my Robinhood shares that I sold. Um, and yeah, you got to sacrifice where you have to in order to address some of the needs. And I'm trying to increase my cash position, which is still just 4.5%. It's way below my normal comfort level.
I do want to add a bit more color to this move
Okay.
that you made. So I'm pulling up your chart of the past 5 years with Robinhood of all your buys and your sells, right? So you could see
Right.
the green, which are the buys, and then the red, which are the sells. Really is a
Right.
good indication of like how you're feeling about the stock,
Yeah.
um, or at least how you're operating with the stock. So what I want to just clarify for the listeners is if you wanted to build out your cash position and you wanted to sell some Robinhood, if you sold any of the shares back here, you would have a huge tax bill because of the, fairly large gains,
Right.
where because you sold your shares from over here, it ends up being a loss, which is going to be offset by gains that you already made. So it was, in my
Exactly.
view, a really smart move
Yeah.
on your
No,
part.
this is a great view. I honestly forget that we even have this view.
Oh, it's one of my
But
favorites.
yeah, it is one of my favorites as well. Every time I look at it, it's like it's fantastic. But basically, the view is showing up for people who are just listening. It's on a timeline. It shows exactly what the price is and when I have purchased with the pluses and minuses, and you can actually hover over the pluses and minuses and see how much I increased my position. And you can see like most of my purchases of Robinhood were when the stock price was anywhere from $7 to $10 or $12, and then I started sales later on. Sometimes regrettably, so there's like every now and then there's a plus sign when the market took Robinhood down. But yeah, this is super helpful to kind of see the overall picture. But yeah, I am not selling the shares that I bought at the $7-8 per share. I sold some of the ones that I bought at $91 per share. So another sort of like aspect of investing, and it might be worth talking about this just briefly, is that when you sell shares in the majority of brokerages, you have the option to say that I want to sell a specific lot, as it's known. So you can say, sell the shares that I bought for X price as opposed to the shares that I bought for Y price. So you can minimize um, your tax impact. So in my case, selling these 3.5% of my Robinhood, I sold 3.5% of shares that I had bought at $91 per share. And as a result, I actually, despite being up significantly overall on my Robinhood, I'm actually taking a loss on these shares that I sold, which will offset some other gains. But
Right.
yeah. that was worth sort of pointing out.
Yeah. I do want to give my thoughts on just a snippet of the earnings and also my overall view of Robinhood and
Yeah.
how I'm thinking of things. Um, the one call out I want to make, which I thought was interesting being in the software space, I'm curious to get your thoughts, is, and I don't know if you caught this because they briefly touched on it. They mentioned that it's going to cost them roughly $100 million to build out the child tax accounts for the government.
That's right.
And the government will pay them cost plus, so they'll get that $100 million back plus a little bit extra.
That's right.
But that the $100 million amount seems a little crazy to me. Like, we could build that for 1% of that.
Could we?
Right? I think
maybe 3 or 4% of that. Maybe 5%
Fine.
of that. Well, I mean, it's taken significantly more to build what we have built, and it doesn't have brokerage capabilities. So there is some safeguards in there. Anyway, not to get sort of distracted by the cost. So the $100 million, it is. It didn't seem completely out of whack. This is a product that's going to potentially have like 60 million users, and
Yeah.
it needs to have all kinds of safeguards. It needs to be compliant in all the ways that gets complicated by the government, because the government is involved. So there's going to be all kinds of rules that it has to apply to these accounts, like who can trade, who can't trade, what parents can do, what they can't do. So this is going to be a very specialized product. So it doesn't surprise me that it's going to cost them $100 million to build it. The nice part about it is not only will they make a small amount of profit because it's a cost plus type of contract with the government, but also it gets their brand out there in front of these 60 million people, presumably up to 60 million accounts, that over time continues to build Robinhood's brand recognition and trust with users. And because they had a significant trust issue back in the GameStop days, and that whole fiasco sort of like impacted their trust aspect pretty negatively for Robinhood, this helps sort of solidify them back into a positive direction of trust. I think it's all around goodness, but yeah.
I hope that's the case. I don't know how much of a benefit it will be for their brand because it's going to be a separate app. Like, I don't know how much, and hopefully they get to brand it and put Robinhood all over it. But
Yeah.
I think there's someone else involved that also loves being the face of this, that is going to want to put their brand all over it as well. So we'll see. And they are partnering with I forget the name of it, the National Design Committee. It's not committee,
Right.
council. So we'll see how it ends up going. And then in regards to the actual price move here, I do want to pull up another Savvy Trader chart. Now, in this, instead of looking at the, and I'll zoom in, instead of looking at the 5-year view, this is the 1-month view of when I sold my just 8% of my Robinhood position a couple weeks ago. And it was funny because after I sold, I mentioned it went up pretty much immediately. I sold at around like $86, I think. And then it shot up to $91, $92.
Yeah.
And now it's back down to $71.
Good timing there. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was
not that timing is an important part of
right.
investing, but that just happened to be good timing.
Right. And is there an element of luck? Always.
Yeah.
But there were 2 reasons why I decided to sell at this point. The first was the reason why it had this big run up was because of that the SEC changed the what was
That's
it?
right.
Day trader rule, whatever. It's whatever it was called that we did a whole segment on. That to me, that was a big nothing burger. Like it was going to make an impact for Robinhood, a positive impact, but not that much.
Right.
And then the second is, as you know, I've been looking at Robinhood's price relative to Bitcoin, and where it should be at roughly right now is 0.001 Bitcoin. That's where it's kind of been the last couple of weeks. So meaning if Bitcoin right now is $75,000, Robinhood should be around $75.
$75,
roughly.
which is roughly been accurate.
Yes. But
but as crypto drops as a percentage of revenue, that should be less and less sort of correlation. That correlation should be less and less moving
you
forward.
would like
right?
to think, yeah.
I would
And,
like,
and eventually this will break. But for
Yes.
now, this is how it's been working. And when when Robinhood was hitting all-time highs, it was closer to like 0.0015. And as we go into this Bitcoin bear market, I expect it to drop more. And right now it's actually at 0.0009. So it kind of reversed in the other direction. But it was just clear it was kind of over its skis when it did that move. And, you know, you never know. It could have been a complete reversal from Robinhood. That's why I don't like make any crazy moves and sell my entire position when I believe in the company long term.
Right.
But it just seemed like that was a good time to take some profit. So the interesting thing is now that Robinhood is at this 0.0009 valuation, Bitcoin only needs to go to 60K and Robinhood needs to remain correlated for it to get to $54. It doesn't even have to get to 60K for me to win the bet. So
Yeah, that's
we are
true.
getting
So
closer.
I do think that you have the highest probability of winning the bet than you have had since we made the bet. So, you know, and our bet, for those who don't know, is that in my view, Robinhood won't hit $60 a share. Dustin has bet that it will hit 60, or it will go below $60 a share. So
By the end of the year.
by the end of the year. So you know, who knows? It could.
Yeah, it hasn't gotten there yet.
It hasn't gotten there yet, but it's inching its way closer today. 13, what was it, down 13, 14%? So
Something like that. Yeah, 13%.